Welcome back to those who already know me, and welcome to the new people in the room. I don't want you guys to feel left out or out of the loop, so I'm going to give you guys a quick recap. My name is Jesse. I'm an American high schooler with a passion for videography and an interest in regenerative agriculture, which is farming sustainably by focusing on the health of the soil and accounting for natural systems.
I am currently in Australia, specifically Canberra. Why am I here? I'm here to learn from one of the great masters of regenerative agriculture, Martin Royds, on his farm, Jilmatong. I am using this channel and these videos to document my foreign exchange and to show all the learning that I'm doing on the farm. Don't ask about this. I am not in any way related to this. It's just a map. So that's the short version. If you follow along with that, congratulations. You're all caught up. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with a little activity that my advisor Justin used to do called What's Going On in This Picture. I'm going to show you a photograph, and it's a critical thinking exercise. I want you to just look at it, analyze it, and think about what is happening, why is it happening, any questions that you could think of that would relate to the picture. And I implore my advisory, the Wakefield Warriors back home, to pause the video here. Justin, pause it, and have them do this activity, and then I'll give an explanation after. Now, usually at this point, there would be an article, usually like New York Times or something, explaining this photo, who took it, and everything like that. Now, if you haven't already realized, there won't be that because I took the photo. Obviously, you can tell by the amazing, immaculate photography skills used here. But now that I'm sure all you lads and lasses have had enough time to analyze the image and ask some really hard-hitting questions, I'd like to welcome you back to America's favorite game show. I'm Alex Trebek, and this is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Sorry for the grand reveal. Our budget was a little low this year. We could only afford that much curtain. Anyway, for our first question, what is the picture of? A herd of kangaroos. B, the classic Australian countryside. C, a really bad dye job. Or D, I plead the fifth, officer. I'll give you 10 seconds to answer. All right, everyone, let's lock in those answers. Now, if you chose B, classic Australian countryside, you would be correct. Congratulations. Yes, this photograph is actually one taken by Jesse, not me, Alex Trebek, obviously. Sombrero, big difference. Now, on to the next question. Why it look like that, though? Why is it half M&M and half green M&M? Your answers are A, a lack of water and arid climate. B, random specific Australian reason. C, Roundup. Or D, jaundice. All right, I'll give you another 10 seconds. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. All right, now if you said A, a lack of water and arid climate, you would be incorrect. Now it does seem like the right answer because it looks like that grass on that other side is pretty dead and pretty dry. But a lack of water wouldn't cause such a clear line right down the middle of that grass, so it can't be that. If you said jaundice, you'd also be incorrect, as jaundice is a condition where people's skin gets kind of greenish yellow, and it actually has nothing to do with grass at all. Why would you answer that?
Final answer. What?
Oh, Chase knows electric current. Oh, Chase, I'm so sorry. Ah, darn.
Now, the real answer to this question was Roundup, so congratulations to all you eggheads who answered that correctly. do you do for work? Oh, I'm an accountant too. Oh, what's your star sign? No, wait, let me guess. You're an Aquarius. I thought so. I have an intuition about these things. I don't know, it just feels like we're like the same person or something. Here's that check back. You didn't. No, when? When I was in the bathroom. Oh my God, you're so bad. Go deal with the baby, Jesus Christ. Oh my God, you have to tell me when your mother-in-law is gonna be in town. Yeah, they fell down the stairs. I don't know what happened. Officer, I keep telling you, I don't know what happened. She just fell, and I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Ajax spraying white. Kills 99.9% of germs, not accounting for inflation. Known in the state of California to cause cancer symptoms. Do not feed your local child no matter how thirsty he says he is. He's lying. Greg, I know you're watching. You're a bum. Disclaimer, not sponsored. Not affiliated in any way with Ajax spraying white.
Now, I'm sure you must be asking yourself, Jesse, what in tarnation is Roundup? Well, I'll tell you. Roundup is an herbicide, meaning that it is a chemical that is used to kill plants. It is an agricultural product. It specifically is targeted towards killing weeds and other unwanted plants and flora. And Roundup is somewhat synonymous with the chemical glyphosate, which was an active ingredient in Roundup until recently. And glyphosate has been around for decades. It originally was brought to the market in 1974 and marketed as an easy solution to all of your weed problems. Not those weed problems, come on. Anyway, it was said to be safe as table salt. So safe, in fact, that glyphosate salesmen would drink a bottle of the stuff when trying to sell farmers on it, as I guess some sort of cool party trick. Suffice to say, none of those salesmen are around today to comment on the safety of the product. There are two major players in the weed scene in Australia. Their names are African lovegrass and serrated tussock. African lovegrass got here in the early 1900s by accidentally being imported along with some pasture seed. There were also some farmers purposefully cultivating it in order to combat erosion on their farms. Now, serrated tussock, I think, has a far more interesting story. It was used to pack these Argentinian saddles that were used all across Australia. Basically, people were, riding their horses all around the countryside, unknowingly planting serrated tussock all over Australia as they went. Fast forward to modern day, and Australia is just covered with the stuff. Every farm has, at least like a couple of these plants. And you can't blame them either, because just one serrated tussock will produce about 20,000 seeds. Livestock won't even eat it because it has such low protein, and sheep have even been found to have decreased quality in wool from only eating it. Farmers will do anything to get rid of the stuff, and for good reason. It can be a major risk to their livelihood. But what these farmers often overlook is that weeds aren't really the issue. What? All right, settle down, settle down. Weeds are actually a symptom of a far more detrimental issue, and that is poor management. Let me explain. Plant succession is, in a way, the evolution of the kinds of plants that can grow in a specific area over time. You see, all land started out as barren. The first plants to really grow on this rocky earth were mosses and lichens, things that could hold in a lot of moisture and break down that rock, getting those minerals and then decomposing into the first layers of soil. Lichen and moss are the driving force behind primary succession, which is the initial colonization of a newly created habitat where there are no other living organisms. Then there's also secondary succession, which happens in habitats that were more disturbed or have, for example, a lot of bare ground. These weeds are the only things that can really grow with this sparse soil, and they take over quickly because of how quickly they reproduce. Their roots hold in the soil, and when they die, they decompose, adding organic matter to the soil, which improves its capacity for moisture and nutrients. Eventually, microbiology and fungi
grow in the soil and other plants outcompete the weeds. So you see, weeds are perfectly normal and even beneficial. When you spray Roundup or glyphosate, all of those good microbes and fungi that allow those grasses and perennials and annuals to grow in the soil, they die. You set back the succession and are left with that bare ground that only the weeds can tolerate. Now, how does this relate to me or Jillamatong in general? Well, believe it or not, Martin actually used to be a contract sprayer. That's right, he would spray his properties with a shiny coat of glyphosate. So what changed? Well, about 30 years ago, Martin had his come to Jesus moment when he poisoned himself. This changed his thinking. How could he be exposing his plants and his livestock to something that could be so toxic and harmful? He began learning about a different kind of farming, one that was sustainable and didn't require the use of these noxious chemicals. The reason an invasive species spread so quickly is they don't have the natural checks and balances imposed upon species usually by their natural environments. So what do you do then? If nature can't handle it on its own and it spreads like lice in the first grade, continuing to choke out the native plants that should be thriving, Roundup looks pretty good right now, doesn't it? Fret not, because there are many ways to skin a cat, and at least 2 ways that I know of to deal with this weed. Now, Martin, while he doesn't necessarily have a problem with the weed because his farm is very well maintained and the native grasses are able to hold up against it, he is very aware of the issue, as is every farmer in Australia. Jillamatong Mountain is covered in serrated tussock, and Martin has gotten permission from the owner to test his methods of killing the plant. Martin's grandfather named the property Jillamatong with a J instead of Jillamatong with a G, like the mountain that it's on, because he just thought he was a pretty funny guy. His first method is a success story from the depths of his storage shed, a cluttered building filled with anything and everything a person could possibly need for any strange scenario. Martin and his inventor friend John, not this John, it's a different John, completely different, created a scalding hot oil sprayer. They combined a water heater, a V6 engine, and a hose, along with limitless amounts of vegetable oil, to create something that clogs the pores of these weeds so that they can't take in any nutrients. It's actually a surprisingly effective way to get rid of them. While oil has been used before for killing weeds, Martin's second method he is actually the first to use, and I think it's actually a lot more interesting. Urea is the product of CO2 and ammonia under high temperature and stress. It is the highest form of nitrogen in solid form and has quite a few uses, including fertilizer, livestock supplements, and road de-icer? Well, there is now a 4th use thanks to Martin. African lovegrass and serrated tussock are nitrogen scavengers, which means they need a lot of nitrogen to grow well. That often means taking it from the soil, leaving not a lot for other plants. Martin figured if they wanted so much, why not give? He grabbed his bag of urea and he started sprinkling. This would either make his problem 10 times worse by fertilizing them all, or maybe fix it. Luckily it was the latter, and the plants were not used to so much pure nitrogen that they actually killed themselves in an attempt to take it all in. It actually worked so well that while killing the serrated tussock and African lovegrass, it also fertilized the grasses that were growing from its ashes. While this information might not be useful to you unless you are an Australian farmer, I do think it is a lesson that there is always another way. Even if people have been doing something the same way for so long, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the best way. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, but even if you didn't, have a good day.